Treason charges are being considered against El Chapo's son, the one who just showed up in the United States with El MAYO on the plane with him. Treason charges. This is what's being talked about by the Mexican government.
Guzman wanted to turn himself in, while Zambada says he was taken against his will. Now, the Mexican Attorney General's office says it's considering the following charges for Guzman and anyone else who helped turn over El MAYO: illegal flight, illicit use of airports, immigration and customs violations, treason, and any other crimes that may apply. Well, in Mexico, there's an added meaning to their treason statute. It includes anyone who illegally abducts a person in Mexico in order to hand them over to authorities of another country. According to the AP, that clause was added after someone had the nerve to kidnap a doctor who was responsible for the of a DEA agent in 1985 and hand him over to the United States. The president of Mexico agrees with the decision to open a criminal investigation into Zambada's arrest.
Pudo haber sido una operación.
Zambada's arrest could have been an operation of the U.S. Department of Justice, and they must provide an explanation because we will find out anyway.
Why treason? Now, mind you, this is a person who, along with his brothers and the whole Federation del Sinaloa, have been, obviously undermining the government in Mexico for many years, breaking the law at a high level, but they want to charge him with treason because he tricked, kidnapped, whatever it was, El MAYO and brought him to the United States. Treason? In a theoretical sense of the law, it's inappropriate, but treason is a charge reserved for somebody that, treason means you undermine the government of your country, right? You go against, you attempt to overthrow anti-patriotic acts against your own country. So while bringing El MAYO may be some violation or a kidnapping, why in the hell would it be treason? Right here in front of our eyes, they're exposing the true nature of the level of corruption. Bringing one of or the largest trafficker in the country over to the United States is something that goes against the Mexican government. That's what treason would imply, which implies that El MAYO was in league with the Mexican government. Wow. They're discussing this in public. Now, it's strategic grandstanding in a sense because obviously the United States is not going to hand this guy back over to Mexico to ever be punished for treason. And I would imagine that the reason they're doing this is to send a signal to the other big-time narcos in the country that they're not down with helping the United States extract top-tier targets from Mexico and bring them to the U.S. because they want to keep the money rolling. They don't want disorder. I guess violence has been increasing since all this went on.
Fear of a possible war between factions of the has put many on alert.
Que no es el camino a la violencia.
Violence is not the way. I'm confident that there won't be confrontations. I wish for that. I just ask that everyone behave responsibly and bet on peace.
These were the remarks of Mexico's president on Monday.
So treason charges are being talked about. And let's go into this a little further. I've done several El MAYO updates, but this is another small update. Remember, El MAYO went to a meeting to help while he was going to act in an advisory capacity about who should be the president of the University of Culiacan or some academic institution down there. So that's pretty wild that El MAYO would be brought in to discuss who's going to be running a university down there. So he's brought to this meeting by Chapo's son Guzman, Joaquin, is he Junior? Joaquin Jr. brings him there. he doesn't come with a bunch of bodyguards because, well, he came with 4. He left 2 outside the zone. One guy was an ex-politician that he brought into the meeting with him, and one was an active member, like he was the head of the Sinaloa Federal Police. Well, those 2 guys are probably deceased now. So Chapo's son facilitated, along with whatever allies in the government, the unaliving of the 2 former politician and the high-ranking cop that were with El Mayo in order to kidnap him. Got him on that plane. There's photos on the plane of a bag that has zip ties coming out. Seems pretty clear he did kidnap El Mayo.
I'm not sure exactly what actually happened.
In Chicago this afternoon, an attorney for Chapo's son denying there was any deal in place to deliver Zambada.
We've got no agreement with the government. There has never been an agreement with the government with Joaquin Guzman Lopez. There is no agreement, period. That's it.
Would you like for there to be an agreement?
I don't know how this case is going to resolve. It's not always up to me. I have to look at the evidence. I reviewed the evidence as to how it reflected on his brother Ovidio.
It seems that there was some plan in advance hatched by Guzman, certainly.
Former Assistant U.S. Attorney in Chicago and Chief ABC7 legal analyst Gil Sofer.
If the goal of Guzman and his henchmen was to eliminate El Mayo, then you think they could simply have killed him. The fact that they went through the effort of bringing him here to be prosecuted would suggest that Guzman has arranged for or is hoping for some sort of lenient treatment by the U.S. authorities.
Pretty wild. And immediately, again, it is true that the day that this happened, the status of Ovidio Guzman, aka El Raton, the brother that had been captured in a daring raid where the Mexican military swooped in helicopters right at his home and grabbed him and handed him right over, well, maybe a week to the United States. Ovidio Guzman's name disappeared from the Bureau of Prisons the very day that his brother delivered El Mayo. So there was certainly a deal. Wow, man, these guys are playing the game at a treacherous high level, but that's to be expected. And the power move is, some months ago, the 4 Chapo sons, the 4 brothers, put a ban on Fetty Wap production down there in Culiacan, and evidence shows that the production in that area has kind of stopped. Of course, it's simply moved closer to the border. There's been no diminution in Fetty coming over. Well, it's hard to know. We can only judge by seizures. Doesn't appear that there's a major change in availability, though. OD deaths are slowly going down. Is that due to less availability? Probably not. Drug epidemics, like all epidemics, go through a life cycle where the people most susceptible to it, so say with C19, the people that were susceptible to it passed away, and then most of the people still living had less severe symptoms and less likely to pass it on. Same thing with being susceptible to extreme addiction issues, so the people most likely to succumb to getting involved with Fetty and ODing, a lot of them are already deceased or have passed through an addiction and are now in recovery, but still a hell of a lot of people dying. I think it's only declined a few percent so far this year, but that's a start. That's good. And if the brothers, so Ovidio's been moved, he's no longer in a BOP. It says not in custody, but an official statement from the Department of Justice says, well, no, he's in custody. We're just not revealing where it's at. So obviously he's been moved into a witness segregation unit. I highly doubt if he's on the street. Probably following along the same pattern those 2 Chapo sons that El Mayo's son Vicentillo did. He testified against Chapo back in the 2018 trial. He did about 11 years. He forfeited $1 billion, but he's now out. There's photographs of him in a fur coat traveling internally in the United States with his family, going on vacation or whatever he's doing. So they're, I'm sure, looking to cut the same kind of deal. I guess, why wouldn't they be? And El Mayo is certainly going to die in custody. He played the game at a high level for a long time, but wow, Mexican government talking about charging him with treason. And again, he'll never be punished for that. U.S. isn't going to turn him over, but that's a signal, a message they're sending to the narcos that are in league with the government that we were not down with this. We will continue to protect you. So the corruption is laid bare. So that's your update on what's going on. They now they're saying that was treasonous to turn over Mexico's most wanted narco to the United States. He did do it in probably an inappropriate way, but hey, it's a dirty game. And they've been playing it for a long time, and Chapo's sons apparently made a better chess move because they'll now see the light of day, whereas El Mayo will not. And maybe they're going to try to get their father moved to less restrictive housing. He's miserable in Florence. He's talking about he's suicidal in the ADX. If they can get him down to just a max USP, like you don't even get regular commissary in the ADX. So we'll see what happens. But is it treason for his son to have brought El Mayo via kidnapping? What do you think? Al Prophet, American Dope.